problem to accept the Cayenne. It's the absolute antithesis of what a Porsche is. It's not small, it's not lithe, it's not light, and it's hard to accept. But when you look at the sales numbers, the Cayenne and the Macan to an extent are the ones that allow Porsche to make cars like the 911, the 718, the 918 Spider, you know, everything else. So this is what brings the money in. What we're driving today is the top dog of the Cayenne range, the Cayenne Turbo. 4-litre V8, twin-turbocharged, 542 horsepower, 770 Nm of torque. There's a lot to like, and even though on a philosophical, on a basic idea level, I don't think a Cayenne is a Porsche, but I'm going to drive it today and see how it works out. The interior of the Cayenne, of course, is another matter. Porsche has been known, it's been their hallmark for a number of years, that the quality of their cars, the quality of the interiors, the quality of the fittings, how the switches work is fantastic. And it's no different in the Cayenne. The general fit and finish level, the trim levels, the way everything stitches together, the way everything melds together is fantastic. You get these haptic feedback switches now instead of physical switches, so they work quite well, but I think they're an acquired taste. It's not it's still a little odd. I think you get used to it once you start using these switches. There's of course the big screen for the multimedia and the car settings. Like I have the chassis height on medium. You can adjust because of the air suspension, you can adjust the chassis height, the sportiness, the Sport Plus, there's individual. On the steering you have the dial that lets you select all the different driving modes. There's also, thankfully, there's also an analog tachometer. So the rev counter is still an analog device, whereas the other dials are now gone. They're now dominated by two small screens that give you all the information. But just, even though this is the top spec Cayenne, but just the fittings, the fit and finish, the quality, how well it's built, that feels very impressive. Now you might be a purist like me who thinks that a real Porsche is a 911. Right? There are quite a few of us actually. But fact of the matter is, in the early 2000s when Porsche launched the first Cayenne, the SUV range was just starting. Today of course it's on a different level. Everybody wants an SUV. Everybody loves an SUV. They are global bestsellers. And what the Cayenne did for Porsche was allow them volumes, numbers, sales numbers, profits that had never been done before in the brand's history. So in this third gen car, I might not be a total fan of the Cayenne as an idea, but the fact of the matter, it sells, people love it. And in the turbo version, I can see why. It's roomy, it's nice, there's huge amount of space in general. You can take your family along with you. In the turbo, you've got the same 4-litre V8, similar 4-litre V8 as the Panamera GTS that we're reviewing on the other section of the show. 542 horsepower, 770 Nm of torque, 8-speed automatic Tiptronic gearbox. Now the power, despite the car's size, the weight, it's fast, it's addictive, it's quite nice to drive. The gearbox works really well. The steering is responsive. You have a lot of feel in the steering, which is so nice to see. Because in a lot of cars today there is virtually no steering feel, but not with the Cayenne Turbo. The engine is very responsive. You don't feel like it's turbocharged. It's that quick. There's no turbo lag, virtually no turbo lag. So there is one shortcoming: price. People like me will never be able to afford a Cayenne Turbo at just under 2 crores ex showroom. It's a lot of money. But if you want a fast SUV that you can drive every day, despite the big 21-inch wheels, actually the suspension is quite nice. It's not too stiff. It's air suspension. You can tune it to different modes. You can change the ride height, the all-wheel drive, the power, the performance. It's hard not to like a Cayenne Turbo. So I might have said earlier that I don't like the idea of it, but driving the car for the past 2 days, exploring its performance, looking at its practicality, would I drive a Cayenne Turbo every day? Yes, I would. It's that good. Like I said again, only problem is perhaps that the price is north of 2 crores. It's not for everybody, not everyone can afford it, but if you can, it's hard to find a go fast SUV than the Cayenne Turbo.